Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. But before you get comfortable, let me ask you something that might sting a little. Why is she still living in your head when she's no longer in your life? Why does her face show up in your mind at night, in the morning, in the spaces where your confidence used to be? And why, no matter how strong you think you are, does it feel like you're slowly losing control of your own thoughts? If that hits you even a little, stay with me. And before we go any deeper, make sure you subscribe and like the video so you never miss the real psychological truth nobody else will tell you. Because here's what most men never realize. When you can't get a woman out of your mind, it's not just about her, it's about what your mind is doing behind your back. You think you're replaying memories because she was special, but psychologically, you're replaying them because your brain is trying to solve a wound it never understood. You're not obsessed with her, you're obsessed with the version of yourself you were when she was near you. And that version felt seen, wanted, chosen. She represented a mirror that made you feel enough. When she disappeared, the mirror shattered. And now you're trying to piece yourself together with memories of her. And this is where men make their first critical mistake. They start confusing emotional longing with emotional truth. You start believing that missing her means you were meant for her. You start assuming your attachment is a sign of fate instead of a sign of unresolved emotional patterns. That's why you keep thinking about the what-ifs, the almosts, the conversations you should have had, the moments you wish you could rewrite. You don't miss her. You miss the control you lost when she walked away. And the second mistake? You give your mind permission to drift. You allow yourself to daydream about her as if those thoughts cost nothing. But every time you let your mind wander back to her, you shape your neural pathways to rely on her memory for emotional stimulation. That's why she pops up when you're tired, stressed, lonely, or bored. She becomes your mental escape, even though she's the reason you feel trapped. And you don't even notice it happening, because men are taught to muscle through emotions instead of understanding them. But the truth is this, your mind isn't torturing you. It's trying to tell you something you've been avoiding for far too long. Let's be brutally honest now. Most men try to fix this problem with logic, with distraction, with forced action. But those are surface-level solutions that barely scratch the surface of what's really happening inside your head. You see, the third critical mistake is thinking you can outrun her presence. You scroll through your phone, you dive into work, you force yourself to meet someone new, but none of it works because the attachment isn't external, it's internal. She's lodged inside the parts of you that crave validation, intimacy, and approval. And until you address that, no amount of texting, drinking, or self-improvement hacks will set you free. Here's the truth most men never hear. The more you chase a woman in your mind, the more you train your emotional system to crave her specifically, rather than connection in general. Your brain becomes addicted to the dopamine of remembering her smile, her voice, the way she laughed at something only you understood. Every mental replay rewires your system to think that release, that emotional high, can only come from her. And that's why heartbreak feels like a trap that never ends. You're not stuck because she's irresistible. You're stuck because you unknowingly reinforced her power over your emotional chemistry. And the fourth mistake? Overanalyzing everything she did, said, or didn't say. Men fall into the trap of dissecting every interaction, turning it into a series of lessons or clues about what went wrong. You replay conversations, decode texts, imagine intentions. And what's terrifying is that your brain rewards you for it. Every mental loop feels productive, even though it's not. It keeps you occupied, yes, but it also keeps you emotionally enslaved. You think you're processing, but you're actually deepening the emotional imprint she has on you. This is why men who can't stop thinking about a woman often feel powerless, frustrated, even angry at themselves. And here's the kicker. The more you fight it, the stronger it becomes. Your mental obsession feeds itself. It grows when you try to suppress it, when you try to be strong or act indifferent. Suppression doesn't work because emotions aren't commands, they're signals. They're trying to teach you something about what you truly need, about where you've been emotionally negligent. And until you recognize that, every late-night thought, every daydream, every pang of longing will feel like a personal failure. What I'm telling you now might feel uncomfortable, but it's the first step toward breaking free. Understanding why your mind latches onto her is far more powerful than trying to force your mind to forget, because control doesn't come from resistance, it comes from awareness. And that awareness is exactly what most men never achieve. Now let's dive into the fifth mistake, one that most men never even realize they're making because it feels natural: idealizing her. You replay her in your mind, but only the best moments, the moments that make your chest tighten and your stomach twist. You ignore the fights, the misunderstandings, the times she disappointed you, or the red flags you consciously overlooked. And the more you idealize her, the more your brain cements her as this unattainable pinnacle of desire, a fantasy version of a person who never actually existed in full reality. Here's the brutal truth: men fall for memories, not women. The version of her you keep thinking about, it's a creation. Your mind edits out the ordinary, the annoying, the imperfect. It stitches together a mental image that's easier to love than the real human being she actually is. And the danger is that this fantasy feels like truth. It fuels longing, obsession, and emotional dependence. You convince yourself that if you just had one more chance, everything would align. But you're not chasing her, you're chasing your own imagination. The sixth mistake builds directly on this: self-blame. Men start asking themselves, what did I do wrong? Why didn't she choose me? And while self-reflection can be valuable, obsession with fault-finding turns into punishment. You torment yourself with if-onlys and should-haves, trying to rewrite history in your head. But every thought like that is a mental trap. You're rehearsing mistakes that exist only in theory, not reality, and your mind rewards you for suffering through them. It's like emotional masochism disguised as personal growth. And here's the harshest part: this cycle isn't accidental. Your brain is wired to resist loss. Emotional attachment is a survival mechanism, not a relationship manual. Your body floods with hormones that insist she's necessary for your well-being, even when rationally you know she's gone. And this chemical reinforcement feels like fate, like destiny, like meant to be, when in reality it's biology, not love. Finally, the seventh critical mistake is doing nothing to reclaim your emotional autonomy. You hope that time alone will heal you, but without active awareness and deliberate emotional management, time just lets the obsession fester. You leave the same mental patterns unchecked, feeding the same fantasies, reinforcing the same neural pathways. And the more you avoid taking control, the longer she stays alive in your thoughts, like a ghost haunting your confidence, your motivation, your peace of mind. The truth men hate to hear is this: breaking free isn't about forgetting her. It's about understanding why your mind can't let go, recognizing the mistakes you've been making, and learning to rebuild the control you surrendered without realizing it. Awareness is the weapon, and the moment you start wielding it is the moment she starts losing her power over you. Now we reach the eighth mistake, and it's one of the most insidious: trying to replace her too quickly. Men often think that the antidote to obsession is distraction through another woman, a new connection, a rebound. And while a new relationship can bring temporary relief, doing this too soon only reinforces the pattern of emotional dependency. You're teaching your brain that your emotional survival depends on someone else's attention. You're not healing, you're patching, and patches never hold under pressure. Here's what most men don't understand: emotional wounds need space to breathe before you can truly move on. If you jump into another connection, you carry the same unprocessed feelings, the same idealization, the same longing. The new person becomes a temporary placeholder for what you can't let go of, which is not them, it's the obsession itself. And this creates a cycle. One fixation leaves, another enters, but the underlying pattern remains unchanged. Your mind still doesn't know how to exist without emotional attachment dominating your every thought. The ninth mistake is overanalyzing her behavior after she's gone. Men track her social media, reread old texts, study every detail as if decoding a secret message will give them closure. But it won't. What it does is feed your mental loops, your obsession, your replay of what-if scenarios. Every post you scrutinize, every story you watch, every memory you revisit reinforces her psychological footprint in your mind. You start to believe that insight into her intentions will free you, but insight doesn't come from observation. It comes from understanding your own reactions. You are not powerless. You are just misdirecting your energy. The 10th mistake is waiting for validation. Many men convince themselves that if she reached out or if she acknowledged them, it would solve everything. But here's the truth. Waiting for someone else to liberate you from your obsession is a trap. You give your power away, and that power is the one thing that can actually dissolve the fixation. Freedom doesn't arrive in her texts, in her attention, or in a reunion. It arrives the moment you reclaim your inner authority, the moment you stop needing her to validate your worth. And the final, 11th mistake ties them all together. Neglecting self-mastery. Obsession thrives where self-control, self-awareness, and self-respect are absent. The men who break free aren't stronger because they fought harder. They're stronger because they learned the rules of their own mind. They learned to spot the traps, recognize the patterns, and step out of the loops before they spiral. They don't wait for her. They reclaim themselves. Understanding these mistakes is not comfortable. It feels like staring at your own vulnerabilities under a harsh light. But it is also liberating because awareness is the first step to freedom. And the men who act on this knowledge, they are the ones who finally stop replaying her memory in endless loops and start living fully again. Now let's talk about the path forward, the real way to stop giving her so much power over your mind. The first step is radical honesty with yourself. Stop pretending you're over it when you're not. Stop telling yourself, "I'm fine," while your mind is looping her smile, her laugh, the way she said your name. This brutal acknowledgement doesn't make you weak, it makes you conscious. And consciousness is the first weapon in taking back control. Admit exactly what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and how it's affecting your decisions. Write it down if you have to. Name it, examine it, and own it. Next, you need to stop idealizing her. Go back to reality. Remember all the ways she wasn't perfect. Remember the arguments, the misunderstandings, the times she disappointed you. Don't do this to punish yourself. Do it to dismantle the fantasy you've built. Your mind clings to her because she's a highlight reel, not the whole story. The moment you see her fully, unfiltered, she loses the mythical status she holds in your head. And once that happens, your emotional craving for her starts to weaken. Then comes the most difficult but most transformative step, reclaiming your emotional autonomy. This means creating boundaries for your thoughts. When you catch yourself spiraling, pause and consciously redirect. Fill your life with experiences that make you feel alive on your own terms. Not experiences designed to replace her, but experiences designed to remind you of your own worth, your own capability, your own capacity for joy. Physical activity, creative projects, deep work, anything that demands your full attention and feeds your own sense of identity becomes a sanctuary for your mind. You also need to stop obsessing over her behaviors, her social media, her choices. Let go of the illusion that you can control or predict her. The truth is, she is already gone from the life you control. Your energy is finite, and the more you invest in her, the less you invest in yourself. Watch how freeing it is when you redirect that energy inward, when you treat your own life as the priority it deserves to be. Finally, cultivate self-respect and patience. You won't stop thinking about her overnight, and that's okay. Progress is measured in moments. Moments where you choose yourself instead of the obsession, where you reclaim your attention, your focus, your peace. And as you strengthen these moments, you weaken the grip she has over your mind. You learn that freedom doesn't come from forgetting her. It comes from mastering yourself. Every man who succeeds in moving on doesn't do so by force. They do it by strategy, awareness, and deliberate action. And that strategy begins with understanding these mistakes and choosing a new path. Now let's bring this full circle. The final step, and the one that separates men who remain trapped in obsession from those who break free, is integration. You've acknowledged the truth about yourself, dismantled the fantasy, reclaimed your emotional autonomy, and redirected your energy. Now it's time to weave all of that into your daily life until it becomes second nature. This is where real transformation happens, because the mind doesn't forget patterns easily. It only replaces them with stronger, healthier ones. Start by creating new mental habits. Each time a thought of her surfaces, instead of spiraling, pause and ask yourself, what is this thought really about? Often, it's fear, loneliness, or the desire for validation, not her. Recognize it, label it, and then deliberately choose a more empowering thought. This is mindfulness in action, not as a buzzword, but as a muscle. The more you exercise it, the less power her memory has to hijack your emotions. Next, immerse yourself in self-mastery. This isn't about distraction or busyness, it's about intentional growth. Dive into skills, fitness, projects, relationships, and experiences that build your confidence and self-worth from the inside out. When your life becomes rich, full, and intentional, her absence no longer feels like a void. It becomes a neutral fact. She exists in your memory, but she doesn't define your emotional state. You are whole without her. The fourth pillar is emotional responsibility. Stop blaming yourself, stop blaming her, stop blaming circumstance. Own your feelings, own your reactions, and own your choices. Obsession thrives on perceived powerlessness. When you claim responsibility, you take back the power that her memory stole. You learn that no one, no woman, no situation can control your inner world unless you allow it. Finally, embrace patience. Change doesn't happen overnight. Your brain will fight for old patterns because they are familiar. But each time you respond with awareness instead of reflex, each time you choose yourself over the obsession, you reinforce a new neural pathway, one that leads to freedom, confidence, and emotional clarity. The men who succeed in breaking free are not stronger because they never felt obsession. They are stronger because they faced it, understood it, and consciously rewired their minds. And once you reach that point, the woman who once dominated your thoughts no longer has that power. You carry your life forward with intention, dignity, and self-respect. Remember, mastery over your mind is mastery over your life. And the moment you realize that, the obsession dissolves. Not because you forgot her, but because you remembered yourself.